When I first started this journey, I was full aware of what expected me. As a solo indie game developer, I knew I had to do everything by myself. Drawing, animating, programming and designing were now part of my daily tasks. But I will never imagine that all this work would require an insane amount of time. This is what I've gone through to finally decide on which project to settle my attention on. And in the whole series, I want to go through all the behind processes and thoughts that come by doing a project by themselves. I'm Shinjingi, and this is Lost Temple. One of the first things that a solo indie game developer knows is that you have to keep the scope of your game as small as possible. I've watched countless videos on mistakes of that kind, and I thought I finally had grasped that. But apparently, even though I had chosen for my game a scope that was not so small and not so big, the art style that I intended to follow was too ambitious for someone that had never drawn in pixel art. Color theory is something you just can't skip if you want your game to look and feel good. Even if you get that right for things like the environment, it doesn't mean that the characters, items and other elements of your game will. And that is something that I experienced myself. I was very happy with the result I got with the environment, but when I tried to make that work for the character, the two things didn't seem to go well together. I spent the last 10 days working on an environment and character that I will never be using. It was clearly my first realization that something in my approach needed to change. At this point I was very discouraged about my drawing skills, and if I had the time I would have practiced more and tried to achieve a cohesive look for both the environment and characters. Knowing that, I tried to search for someone that could take care of the art for me. But of course, if you can't pay for it, very few people will be interested in joining you on the premise that you will share the revenue of the project with them. So after my failed attempt in searching for help, I tried to make the project a lot easier, taking inspiration from a game I played when I was young on the Game Boy Color, which was Warioland 3. I thought, let's gather all the sprite sheet of Warioland 3 and let's try the approach from the developer of Super Cat Tales, going for something simpler but that still looked good. And that was working. I really liked how simpler making the environment was with a smaller palette and minimalistic style, so I've taken the old character and tried to change it accordingly to the new project. And here is where I made another mistake. Feeling good about the environment, I started working right away on the animations of the character, without trying it first on the level, and when I finished it and tried it, it just didn't feel and look good again. But I didn't want to throw the environment to the trash can this time. I wanted to try to make the easiest thing you can possibly draw and animate in pixel art, which is a slime. The idea was to create a game where every character was a slime, in this kind of style, where each slime will have different powers and abilities. This might have been a good compromise for the project, because making the environments and characters for the game would have been much easier. But then I felt I was letting myself down too much, and if I kept on lowering the standards, it could have become too simple. So after spending 3 weeks just trying to come up with something that worked, I decided that I had to take some time off and focus my attention on the code side of things. So I just created a test character and environment just to be able to test the code I was going to write. Being a programmer was finally in my comfort zone. I knew what had to be done and how to do it. I mainly focused on the player because I wanted it to feel responsive and to write code that was easily debuggable, so that if something went wrong I could spot the error easily. And that was achieved by following one of the solid principles, which says that each class should just have one responsibility. So I divided each action the characters could make in separate classes and used them accordingly to the state the character is in. This also allowed me to use the actions for other characters in the game, not binding them to the player only. Speaking of the states, I decided for this project that I wouldn't use the Unity mechanics system, because it was more a minus than a plus. for a 2D game with simple controls. So I handle each state transition in the code, and with that I don't have to worry about all the weird connections that we may end up with in the animator. Everyone that has been stuck on a work will tell you that the best thing to do to overcome this phase is to take a break and just do something else. So in the period I was coding and not thinking and trying to come up with a style for my game, I had an intuition. Something that maybe for you watching right now might seem obvious. And it all started with a music video of a group that I've also never heard of, named Learn. In this video all the drawings are in black and white. So I began thinking that I might do the same and just use monochromatic colors for my game. That's when I stumbled upon this image on Twitter that was exactly what I was looking for, and now I had a clear idea on what to pursue. Inspired by Hollow Knight, I started creating the environment and also tried to make the most out of it, so that the game felt like it had depth, with the use of the parallax effect. Once the first area was finished, I started creating the character right away. I first tried to take my test character and transform that into my actual character, but having to animate it was a nightmare. So I decided that I was going to take as a model Wario from the already mentioned Warioland 3. That's why the character seems so alike. I might change something in the future, but for now that's how the main character will be. When I finally put the character in the game, I felt like all the time I invested into making everything feel right paid off. I was really happy about the style I'd chosen, and now what remained to be done was to test all the animations and code each action into the game. For that I used the state machine I had previously built, changed and improved a few things, and checked that everything worked as intended. Not only the gameplay felt flawless, but it also worked on my super old smartphone, which was great, because thanks to it I will be able to test it for both PC and mobile, since I intend to release it for as many platforms as possible. Finding the right project took me almost 2 months, and in that period I realized how hard it is to make games. Not only for the amount of work needed by a solo indie game developer, but also for all the intricacies that goes with it. There are a lot of things that haven't been said in the indie game community, and with this video I just wanted to share some of them with my own experience. Of course, in these months I didn't work on this project only, I'm also getting ready to step into 3D once I finish this project, with something that will look like Octopath Traveler. In the next video I'll tell you more about the story of Lost Temple and the inspiration that I took from things that I like. Some of them have been briefly discussed, but I want to take a more detailed look at them and show you how powerful it is to take things that you like, even outside of gaming, and use them to improve your project and share things that you like through your game.